Well, hello again. Welcome to Horror in Detail. Today we are going to share Wendigo encounter stories. Fifth story. If you see a structure in the woods, leave it alone. Hello everyone, Jethro here. I'm still in Paris, but not for long. In a few days I'll be back home together with Molly. But I'm not writing this to tell you about my romanticism with Molly. I'm here to tell you how I met that thing. As you know, well, if you didn't, you will now. I'm a hunter for the paranormal, demons, cryptids, and all the other ingredients that form the shit soup my life. I get contracts from people around the globe, hunt this. We'll discuss the pay afterwards, or I think I accidentally summoned a demon. I need help. How you accidentally summon one of Satan's slaves is beyond my thinking, but some people are apparently dumb enough to do that. How do I get the contracts, you ask? Well, through a site on the deep web. It's pretty hidden, but not impossible to find, and I take care of unwanted guests, so it's probably the safest space on the platform. This site also led to my unwanted friendship with Azaf. It was 9 p.m. on a Tuesday. I waxed fixing some looks on my site to make it more aesthetic, as if anyone cared. My computer made a ding sound. I looked in the bottom left corner, and sure enough, a chat box was there. Hello, Jethro. Name's Azaf. I heard a lot about you, especially that you are very talented in paranormal shit, so I decided this was the best place to come. I need help regarding a stone formation. Doesn't sound bad, I know, but bear with me. Last week it wasn't here. 2 days ago it was. It also came packed with some hooded figures that always sit in the middle, and I don't like uninvited guests on my property. I also work in the same range as you. But I'm afraid that if those hooded things attack, I won't be able to kill them alone, so I want you to help me take care of them. I'll attach a link below to my location. We'll discuss more here. I hope you get back to me soon. How charming, I thought, my name's circulating around. I was doubting pressing the link he sent me. What if it was a virus or a DDoS attack, IP tracker? There were many possibilities. But my instinct told me it's fine. And I'd be damned if I didn't listen to the voice that saved me millions of times before. I opened the link. It went straight to an image satellite view from Google Maps. The location was a national park. I've visited there before. Beautiful scenery combined with fresh air feels good to have once in a while. Knowing he wanted me to get there as soon as possible, I decided to sleep that night and pack up in the morning. I replied to his message with a quick, "I'll be over soon," before closing my laptop. I woke up at 7 sharp and made myself some coffee. The trip was 3 hours away. I'll surely need some. I packed up everything I needed, got in my Ford truck, and drove to Azaf. The drive was peaceful, the roads pretty empty since it was so early in the morning. I admired the trees I was passing by while listening to old rock music. I finally got there, starving. Someone was already waiting for me. "You Jethro?" asked the man without missing a beat. He looked stressed. He wasn't very tall, 5 feet 7 inches, but was very well built. He had a scar on his left side of his face. His hair, a messy black tar color, was waving in the wind. His face was freshly shaved, and some perfume from his body was picked in the wind's dance. "Yeah, you Azaf?" I responded the same way he asked. He nodded and handed me his hand, waiting for a shake. I took it firmly and gave a small smile. "Come, let's get to my cabin. We'll discuss there." He signaled for me to follow him, as he already was making way to the dirt path. He sure isn't wasting any time, I mumbled to myself. I stood my place for a quick second. I forgot my weapons. I ran to the backside of my car, grabbed my bags, and decided to take out my revolver just in case. We walked on the path for about 10 minutes before he went off it. "Just a little more," he said, looking back at me. He saw the gun. We reached a small wooden cabin that seemed so out of place, in the middle of the tall bark trees. Next to the cabin were some cut logs, held in place by thick, weathered ropes. We went inside. A fireplace was dimly burning some wood. Next to it more small cut logs, laid waiting for their demise. It was cozy. There was also a bookshelf full of books, mostly classic and old, but there were some new ones next to it, a couch. Perfect length from the fireplace to keep you warm, but also not burn you. On the left side was a bed where, I guessed, Azaf slept. The bed was made from more logs, refined and oiled, so they looked shiny and fine. "You want a drink?" asked Azaf before pulling out a half-empty bottle of scotch. "Too early for me," I replied, kindly denying his offer. "But I'm starving if you have some food." "Oh, sure," he replied, going to the freezer and pulling out some frozen, round pre-cooked beef. He placed 2 pieces on a porcelain plate, setting it next to the fire. "While those warm up, let's talk about the situation," suggested Azaf with a warm and kind tone. For a man doing my job, he sure was cheerful. "Tell me about it," I said, agreeing with what he said. "Well, I was chilling in my cabin early morning about a week or so ago. I have a few morning folks who like to take walks through here. It's safe, and the morning fresh air makes for a good waker. I got a knock to my door, followed by 2 more. It was one of the men who walks here. I welcomed him in, asking what's up. He told me that the stone formation I built was pretty damn good and just wanted to come congratulate me. I looked at him with an eyebrow raised before asking dash. He stopped his tail before getting up, going to the beef. It was warm now. He placed the 2 beef on 2 round buns that already had cheese on them and handed them to me. "Hamburgers, neat," I thought while starting to chomp down on them like a hungry dog. I was a hungry dog. He continued, while sipping his scotch from time to time, keeping his red lips moist. Like I was saying, I asked him about the stone formations he was talking about since I knew, well, I didn't build any. Neither was I a sleepwalker architect. He looked at me, confused, before telling me to come with him. We walked for about half an hour before reaching them. Sure enough, tall stone pillars, like the Stonehenge formation, stood in the woods, rising up from the ground, looking like they were always there. I was even more confused now, wondering how they appeared there. He chuckled proudly at the fact that he was right, and I was wrong, but my stomach started to turn for some reason. Something was wrong about them. Where they stood, nothing got close. No animals, no vegetation. It was just the ground's forest circling this weird structure. I got closer to it. My knees felt melty. I barely could walk. My hands were floppy. It somehow weakened me. I went back to the folk as fast as I could and told him to get out of here. His proud expression turned to fear. He knew I was serious when I started yelling. He went home, and I closed the park following the next second. Ever since then, I kept an eye on them. Sometimes I hear mumbling, like someone singing some type of song, but the noise comes from seemingly thin air. I decided to reach out to you when the hoods first appeared. He finished the story as I finished my food. It was good. I stared to the floor, my mind trying to figure out what was going on from what he told me. I finally got an idea. Do the hoods appear only during the night? Yeah. All right then. Can we go to the formation now? I asked him. His eyes changed. A worry look was written in them. But he agreed nonetheless. Sure, just don't get too close. I know what I'm doing. Don't worry. I told him with a chuckle. He was dead serious, my chuckle slowly dying in his piercing stare. We walked for 30 minutes, as he said, before we reached them. I stared at them for a second before being interrupted by Azaf. What do you think? The same look of concern plastered on his face. I can't tell much if I don't get close. Also, you didn't mention the candles that are around the middle of this thing. What candles? He said before looking closer. He indeed saw what I've seen. Small red candles were placed tidy around the structure and around the middle. His face said it all. Can I get closer? I asked him, breaking his chain of thoughts. It's your funeral, he said. Grim way of saying yes, I thought. As I got closer, I felt everything slow down. Air motion sounds. Indeed, it was weakening me, not enough to kneel me down, but enough to slow me. It was like gravity got heavier. I got to the middle of it and looked around the stone pillars. They looked like polished stone, no cracks, no signs of being weathered. On their sides were symbols going from top to the bottom. Only once have I seen them. They were demonic symbols. Their roles are, as you expected, to help summon hellish creatures or portals. Last time I saw one of these, it didn't turn out exactly good. I turned back to go to Azaph, but something stopped me. "Leave while you can," came a hushed and raspy whisper. It didn't sound like Azaph. I looked around, confused, for its source, but all I found was the forest and the confused look of Azaph. "What are you looking for?" Something whispered to me. I told him, signaling him to be quiet. He didn't speak for a second, but when he saw I couldn't find anything, he said, quietly, "Do you remember the sounds without a source?" I did remember, and it wasn't a good sign. Something made its home in the structure, and it didn't like visitors. "What did it whisper to you?" he asked curiously. "Leave while you can." "What the hell?" he asked, fear starting to build in him. There were also symbols, demonic, carved in the stone. My guess? We're dealing with hell worshippers. I told him. His eyes widened and his face turned pale. "Don Dash. Don't you mean Satan worshippers?" His words stumbled. "Those are different. They only worship Satan. These one are trying to summon a portal or hellish creatures. And usually people die when that happens." I informed him. All the joy that was in him left. "How do we deal with them?" "We need to wait till it's night so they come to worship, summon, whatever. We attack them. Leave no survivors. They don't know that we know about them, do they?" I asked, glaring at him. "Nah, man, I've been looking at them from a distance." He responded without missing a beat. "Perfect. We hide somewhere near here, prepare our guns, and ambush them. Sounds like a plan." He reassured me. For how scared he seemed, he sure as hell was brave. Night came quickly upon us, but we were ready. Out of nowhere they came. They were 5, hoods up, covering their facial features. They didn't look old nor young. Judging from their clothes, they were 20 to 30. After looking around, most likely making sure nobody was spying on them, they sat down in a circle around the middle. They started holding hands while bowing their heads down. This was the time to attack. I looked at Azaph, meeting his cold glare. "Ready?" I whispered to him. "Ready as I'll ever be," he whispered back, although he tried to hide it. Fear creeped on his words. We got up, tiptoeing closer until we had a clear view of our targets. All hell broke loose. Azaph blasted the head of one of the hooded things, making its limp body hit the ground with a thud. The others looked up at us. For the first time we saw their faces. They weren't human. Their faces were mutilated. Empty black voids looking at us, consuming our souls. Their faces were pale. No color could be seen on them. Their mouth opened sideways, rows of small, jagged teeth ready for flesh. Their ears were slit, with strange symbols marked on them like they were marked on the rest of their face. "What the hell are these things, man?" shouted Azaph at me, fear overwhelming him. "I have as much of a fucking idea as you do." I yelled back, "We need to stay calm. Don't let them get through you." Harder than it sounds, he said, his voice now trembling. Was he about to cry? I wondered to myself. They hissed at us for a few seconds before attacking. They were fast, too fucking fast. They took advantage of the trees, climbing on them to pounce from above. I managed to shoot one in mid-air with my shotgun. Only 3 were left, Azaph managing to kill another one shortly. Although they were fast and damn fucking ugly, they weren't very resident. Little did we know the worst is about to come. Before killing the last 2, one of them hissed at us again. This time it was intelligible. "We told both of you to leave. Now you'll burn in hell." The thing started laughing hysterically. The second one started saying some sort of chant. At first the words sounded normal, but as the chant went longer it got considerably faster. Its eyes turned into their sockets, now bleeding red liquid, as it started floating. Strange, visible, energy was circling him in an endless loop. Me and Azaf couldn't help but glare at the scene. We were mortified, frozen in place, our bodies refusing to do anything. In the background, the first creature kept repeating, "Yes, yes, we're going home, we're going home." The creature was now around 10 feet from the ground while suddenly everything stopped. Sounds, movement, gravity, blood flow. The demon fell down, hitting the ground hard, bone cracking coming from its body. We expected it to be dead. It wasn't. A few seconds later, some sort of portal opened. We could only see fire inside it. The sound that came from it was worse. Millions upon millions of tortured screams shrieked in a painful symphony. My ears were hurting. I looked at Azaf. He was trying to cover his ears too, but that didn't work. The sound was too strong. We were fucked unless we did something. We did the only thing we could do, shoot at the portal as much as we could. The bullets were landing, but they were going inside. We remembered the two creatures. The first one was still laughing. I put a shot in its eyes, "Fuck you, asshole." Azaf was about to do the same to the second one, but it got up. It floated again, only now it was even less human than before. As it floated, arms thrown wide, in a T pose, it started blabbering something. Another fucking chant? I yelled, annoyed. I looked at Azaf. His gaze met mine. Something was wrong. The creature suddenly stopped, and when it did, Azaf shot at me, barely missing me. "What the fuck are you doing?" I roared, tears starting to form uncontrollably in my eyes. "You're going to die for your sins, you mortal pleb," yelled Azaf back. Then it clicked. The demon took control of Azaf's mind, making him try to kill me. I couldn't bring myself to shoot him for some reason. He was still a human inside. I needed to kill the creature. My task only got harder when from the portal 2 skinwalkers and 2 wendigos came. "Oh, give me a fucking break, will you?" I shouted at the creature. Deep down, I really wanted it to give me a break. The thing only laughed at me, staring at me. Its stare saying, "See you in hell, idiot." The demon went to the portal, closing it. It was me versus everything. I checked my ammo bag. Thank God I always bring more than I expect is needed. The wendigos pounced at the same time, their smell of decay and death hitting my nose like a fire truck. I barely managed to dodge before the skinwalkers followed them. One of the walkers threw me to the ground. Luckily, I had a tight grip on my shotgun. I shot 2 rounds in the ground while trying to aim at them. I managed to do it, and I shot one of the skinwalkers straight in its face, making it flop to the ground, its face turning to a fleshy and bloody mush. The others shrieked angrily. My friend snuck behind me, shooting at me. Motherfucker hit my shoulder, but luckily it wasn't with the shotgun he had. It was with his pistol. I don't know what he did to the shotgun. I squealed in pain, shoving him to the ground. "I'm not going to kill you, asshole." I squeaked at him before I got thrown into a tree by a wendigo. My shotgun fell to the ground, but luckily I managed to flip my rifle from behind. Fully auto, ING, the wendigo's body. He fell on top of me. Its weight felt like crushing my bones. I finally managed to shove it away from me. I looked up, seeing the demon laughing while applauding. He was toying with me. This was a theater play to him. I shot at the demon, but he flew past the bullets, raising a finger up and moving it to the sides in a no motion. Azaf got up and shot at me, but my adrenaline and fear allowed me to use the wendigo carcass as a shield, throwing it on him after he stopped shooting. This would give me enough time to deal with the creatures. The skinwalker rushed at me like an angry bull. I just got away, making it hit a tree. The tree made a loud breaking sound, its leaves hushing from the shock. It hit the tree so hard it fell on him. The hellish creature looked back at me, hunger written all over its eyes. It shrieked loudly, trying to get the tree off, but it didn't have time as I got my revolver and emptying 6 silver bullets in his head. How the fuck am I alive? I mumbled to myself, trying to breathe. I managed to catch my breath. The wendigo sat still. The demon must have been controlling it as well. He wanted his show to go on a little longer. All right, you stupid asshole. Let's make a deal. I tried, pleading to the demon through heavy breaths. Surprisingly, he looked interested in my words. A low growl came from his mouth. Go on. If I manage to kill your last pet, I said, pointing to the Wendigo, you leave my friend alone, giving him back his mind. After that, me and you will fight. If you win, you can have my soul. If I win, you die. He stared at me for a second, contemplating the offer. Do you think a mortal like you can kill me? Those silver bullets you have won't do much to me. He was right. A demon his tier was almost immune to silver bullets. But I had other ammunition that he didn't know of. Well, it's the only fucking chance I have for me and my friend to leave this place alive. Right? He smiled at me, basically answering my question. All right, you put a good show for me, so I'll give you this one chance. Thank God, I said to myself. I went to grab my shotgun, reloading it. I contemplated shooting directly at him, but I decided against it. When I was done preparing, I looked at the thing, nodding. The demon kept my friend standing still in the air, next to him. I looked at my shoulder, hoping the adrenaline would get me through the pain. The thing released the Wendigo. The hungry pest wasted no time pouncing at me. The ground shook as he ran after me. He was strong. I slid on the ground, him jumping over me. I turned back to him and shot 2 times. One hitting his chest and one missing. Come on, Jethro, concentrate. I mumbled. The demon was smiling, thinking I'm done for. Me and the creature started going in a circle, both of us waiting for one of us to make a move. The Wendigo fake charged at me, making me shoot again. The gun was made for close range, and we were mid-range, so I missed. He charged again, for real this time, but I managed to dodge. All right, you dirty bastard, if that's how you want to play, that's how we'll play, I yelled at the thing, throwing my shotgun to the ground and grabbing my rifle. I didn't waste any more time. I was done playing games. I started blasting at it. Before the Wendigo even had a chance to react, his body was full of holes. It looked like a shitty puppet when I was done. It fell to the ground, its last stare giving me a chill. The demon looked at me. For the first time, I could see a trace of emotion. He was impressed. A deal is a deal. I yelled at him, pointing towards Azaf. He shrugged at me before putting him down. I won't give him back his mind. If you kill me, he turns to normal anyways. Plus, I don't want him attacking me. The demon told me, a wide smile on his face. Fine, just put him down, let's get this over with. I told the demon, trying to sound brave. Truth is, I was tired, so fucking tired. And the pain of my bruises and wounds started to creep all at once, my adrenaline barely keeping them in its lead. As the demon was letting Azaf down, I loaded silver bullets blessed by an actual angel. Again, a story for another time. I didn't have many, but I believed enough to take the demon down. As I got ready, so did the demon. He attacked. He was ruthless, its claws moving quick, swiping from side to side. It almost ripped one of my arms off, but I managed to stumble out its way, getting some distance. It was no use. The pain overtook me. I laid, sitting down on the cold, hard forest ground, leaning on a tree. Any last words, mortal? Asked the demon, sick excitement leaving mouth. Yeah, dash. I paused to catch my breath. Die, you asshole. I finally muttered out, bracing for the impact. The demon looked at me confused before bringing his clawed hands upwards in a swift motion. It didn't have time to finish. As I was laying there, helpless, I heard a yelling from behind the demon before the gunshots accompanied it. It was Azaf. He rushed to my side, but I didn't hear what he said since I passed out. I woke up at the hospital, apparently 2 days later. That's what Azaf told me anyway. I stood in the hospital for a few more months before I recovered. I had a broken arm, a broken ankle, and my back was badly damaged, barely not reaching my spine. The official cause was that me and Azaf were cutting down trees. One fell on me. As for the gunshot wound, I bribed the staff with $5,000 since they needed some new equipment anyways. When I was finally let out, Azaf invited me to his new place. He sold the property and moved further inside the city. "Hey man, come inside," said Azaf, moving from the way, opening the door fully. His new apartment was pretty big, but also cozy. He sat me on the couch in front of a glass table. A wide flat-screen TV was attached to the wall across the couch. "How have you been?" he asked me, looking me up and down, noticing the scar that the bullet left in my skin. "Well, other than sitting in that boring hospital for months, I can't complain," I said with a chuckle. "No kidding. I don't know how you're alive after what you told me happened. What can I say? I'm a tough asshole," I replied, keeping the bright mood. His eyes fixed on me. They got a little dark, making me worry. "Also sorry for, trying to kill you." He said he was honest. His words were warm and came with a stutter. "Well, that wasn't you, so don't worry about it," I said, reassuring him that it's all right. He truly felt sorry. "So you sold the national park?" I finally asked. "Yeah, after what happened in those woods, I never want to go back there or in a forest." He said, the regret of selling it was written on his face. "You gotta do what you gotta do," I said. He smiled before saying, "I guess." "Oh yeah, since you're so tough, we should team up," he said. I knew this was coming. "Yeah, it'll be cool, but I work alone," I said, denying his offer. "A bummer. Guess this is where we part ways then. But you owe me for saving you," he said, a grin forming on his face. "I can't complain, I guess." "I do owe you," I said, a little annoyed, but what was I supposed to say? "How did you save me anyways?" "All right, you blacked out?" "The demon was so concentrated on you, on his pride, his victory, that the spell, or whatever he had on me, became weak. I somehow managed to snap from it. I took your rifle. It was on the ground next to the demon. He didn't see me. I blasted the rifle at its head. It collapsed on the ground after a few shots. I don't know what bullets you had in it, but they did wonders. I got you in my car and rushed to the hospital." "Jesus Christ, well, thank you, man," I said, looking at him. For the first time since we met, I didn't see him as an asshole. He took a pause, contemplating what to say next. He finally spoke. "Great. Well, I'll contact you when I need your help," he said, walking with me to the door. "See you then," I said, exiting the apartment, heading home. I took a break for a month. I still needed my mental health to come back, plus I didn't get much sleep in the hospital. Right when my month ended, Azaf contacted me about the house I told you about. Second story, how I became a Wendigo. My name is Levi, and I'm 19. I live in the countryside of central North Carolina. I usually like to go on a walk in the woods after I get off work to relieve stress from working all night. Earlier this week, something strange made me question my entire reality. This is my story, the story of how I became a Wendigo. I was walking through the woods, as I usually did after getting off work, when I heard something ahead of me about 50 feet. I curiously walked over fallen logs and rotting leaves to investigate the noise I had heard. I instantly recoiled in horror at the disgusting sight laid before my eyes. There was a bloody corpse of a deer, its body almost unidentifiable with all the blood and insides splattered all over the fallen leaves. I regained my composure slightly, until I realized I was getting hungry. I looked closer and realized that this dead thing was not a deer. I lost every sense of rationality as the hunger I felt enveloped me. I heard whispers in my mind as I suddenly realized my surroundings. It had grown dark, and I had blood on my shirt. I let out a horrified scream as I realized what I had done. The whispers I had heard were speaking to me again. I heard them say, "You ate the flesh of the Cursed King. Now you will become the new Cursed King. Rejoice, for this is the time of rebirth, the time of new life. I felt the world fall to black. I woke up to see myself in a circle of blood, surrounded by hooded figures wearing deer skulls. On closer inspection, it seemed as if they weren't just masks. They chanted in a language I didn't understand, and I started to scream as I felt unbearable pain. I was unable to move as their chanting only grew louder. I blacked out and woke up an unknown time later on what I could only describe as a bloody throne of bones, rotten flesh, and what looked like bits of hair. I was unable to move as I saw a vision of what I call a Wendigo ripped its head off and slammed it on my own. There are things that have been happening to me that I cannot explain. I cannot help this feeling of dread and extreme hunger I have. I want to eat humans. I have an insatiable hunger, and I cannot escape what I have become. I cannot explain what I have become. I don't know what I am going to do now. I felt extremely sick, and I passed out once more. As I slipped away from reality, I felt only pain and sorrow, but could not cry in pain. I somehow woke up in my room, and I've decided to seek help with the last of my sanity intact. Please, if you know what's going on, I need help. I've already eaten 4 people, and I'm starting to grow antlers and grow fur. My hands are black, and my claws make it hard to type. Please, I'm begging you. If you see me while traveling in North Carolina, kill me. I am leaving as soon as I post this so I don't hurt anyone else. It's too late for me now. Third story. I was a contestant on a survival show. They never aired our season. When I was 10 years old, I got lost in the woods while my family was camping. I went to go walk along the trails near our campsite and got turned around. After 30 minutes of walking in circles, worry and dread bubbled to the surface. I was starting to think I'd never get out of these woods alive. But something else emerged inside me, too, determination. I knew I had what it took to find my way back. I sat for a few minutes to recalibrate my thoughts and let the calm wash over me. The calmer I was, the more clear my thinking became. Once I removed the fear, solutions started to present themselves. I was out and back at the campsite 10 minutes later, my parents none the wiser. Most people would have been grateful they found their way back and never strayed too far from civilization again. Not me. Getting lost in nature activated the primal part of my brain. The clarity I felt out, there was a feeling I've been chasing for my entire life. From that moment, I've thrown myself into the survivalist lifestyle and never looked back. 20 years on, I'm confident I can survive anywhere. I'm damn good at this. I was stoked when I saw the casting notice for the show at the Army surplus store. A production company was looking for survivalists to be dropped in the woods and document their lives as they lived off the land. I was built for this and applied as soon as I got home. Within a week, I did a phone interview. Another week, I was screen testing. A month after, I was airlifted to the middle of some Eastern European wilderness to compete for a big cash prize. One thing that happens to you when you start down the survivalist path is that your sense of fear dulls. It's not that you don't get scared anymore. A charging bear would terrify anyone, but you learn to mitigate the feeling. When you turn your fear into a problem that needs to be solved, it takes the sting out of the emotion. Something stalking you in the woods? Stop, assess, and make a plan. Stay rational, and don't let the darkness creep in. Everything is a problem that needs to be solved. This approach had served me well for years. I've had some pretty horrifying experiences in nature that would turn a weaker person's hair white. Sudden monsoons, bears raiding my camp, wolves stalking me as I gathered firewood. You name it, I've dealt with it. But nothing prepared me for dealing with a screaming Mimi. About a week into the start of the game, I was sitting pretty. I had built a sturdy campsite, found a freshwater stream, and caught half a dozen fish. If things kept up, this wasn't going to be a problem. I also found myself getting incredibly comfortable talking to the camera. Sometimes I would narrate what I was doing and why and how it would help me. Other times, I spoke to it like it was a friend I could unburden my troubles on. It helped keep my sanity. I had taken to watching the sunset every evening. It was my reward for surviving another day. Watching the orange globe slip behind the tree line became my daily mass. A moment to reflect and contemplate. There are no guarantees in life, only that it'll end one day. Watching the sky turn from blue to black was a reminder to treasure every day we get to be on this side of the grave. My church, for lack of a better word, was near the creek where I gathered fresh water. It was about 500 feet from my campsite, so not a major hike, but everything was more challenging in the dark. I always took the camera with me because it provided a little light to help guide me back. I also got into the habit of narrating what I was seeing or not seeing, the world around me like David Attenborough. Was it dumb? Yes. Did it help make the vast darkness less scary? Yes. Would it give me more screen time? Absolutely. It was always better if I saw a squirrel or a chipmunk because I could list everything I remembered about them. But when I couldn't, I just invented creatures to talk about. While the creatures were imaginary, I also was drawing on a pool of information I had found before I left. When I discovered where we were going, I did a deep research dive on everything I thought I'd need to know to survive out here. What started as discovering edible plants of Eastern Europe quickly devolved into looking up the area's lore. Eastern Europe is home to countless myths and legends. There was some pretty wild shit that would worry the most stoic person. I was hooked. I spent more time looking up monsters than I did anything else. In hindsight, probably not the best use of my time. But if I've learned anything from watching the show, it's that you have to entertain yourself first and foremost. If you don't, you'll go crazy. Me narrating my nightly walks home was helping to keep me sane. There was a creative aspect to making shit up. Here we see the elusive deep woods gollywop. It stalks its prey before digging its knife-like appendages into the back of the unfortunate victim. The death is a painful one. My Attenborough is terrible, and I usually ended each extended riff in peals of laughter, but it helped to keep me sane. Plus, it made for good TV. Later that night, I woke up when I heard what sounded like a deer screaming in distress. That wasn't uncommon in nature. Deer get killed all the time. But what set me on edge was that it was really close. Like 50 feet from my campsite, close. I grabbed my knife and got my boots back on. I was ready to run if I had to. For the next hour, I heard the sickening snapping of bones and sinew as the deer was devoured by the predator. I wasn't sure what kind of animal had taken down the deer and wouldn't until the morning. I could look at the tracks and plan accordingly. Until then, I sat and listened to the tearing of flesh, the wet slap of meat hitting the ground, and the crack of broken bones. Whatever was out there was enjoying their meal. Naturally, I didn't get much sleep after that. As soon as dawn broke, I made my way over to where I heard the struggle. The scene wasn't what I was expecting. In my time in the wilderness, I've seen plenty of kill areas, but nothing prepared me for this. It didn't look like the predator killed for food. It looked like it killed for sport. The carcass had been placed on its back against a tree. The deer was split open, and its insides now resided on the outside. They hadn't been touched. The antlers had been snapped and splintered like something heavy had hit it over the head. There was blood and black goo everywhere. But the most unsettling this was what I found along the top of the deer's back. There were two massive holes along its spine like they'd been stabbed by someone wielding dual machetes. For a second, I thought maybe one of the other contestants had made their way over to me, but I knew that was impossible. We were all scattered like seeds to the wind. But what else would have caused this massacre? I looked for footprints in the dirt, but didn't find anything. I assumed last night's rain had washed them out, but for a fleeting second, I thought that maybe something had covered its tracks. Needless to say, I was on edge the rest of the day. I did a little exploring to make sure whatever had killed the deer wasn't hanging out near me. After a few hours of looking, I was satisfied nothing was hanging around and went on with my daily routine. I had some projects I needed to finish and started working on them. I wanted to keep my mind busy so as not to dwell on whatever killed that deer. I was mostly successful. Toward the end of the day, I made my familiar trek to my church to pray for another successful 12 hours. I found myself being particularly moved by the sunset. I sat and cried out of gratitude. Being alone in the woods can wear on a person, regardless of how tough they are. On my walk back, I continued with my Planet Earth narration. Off to the left, you'll hear the leaping of the common brown squirrel. If things go right, that squirrel will be in my cooking pot by morning. I chuckled to myself and walked a few more steps. Not to be outdone, there is the wild ballamar. This native species is known for its razor-sharp teeth and penchant for biting its victims in the Achilles tendon. Nastier than any Trojan soldier, I should think. I saw my campfire in the near distance, and I was about to put away the camera when I heard something start to growl off to my left about 20 feet into the woods. I froze. I felt for where my knife usually was, but remembered I had taken it off to clean a fish and hadn't put it back. I turned the camera towards where I had heard the noise and scanned for what had made the noise. I was splitting my attention between the viewfinder of the camera and the dark woods in front of me. I tried to stay as still as possible, but I was shivering. It wasn't from the cold. "Hey there," I yelled out. "Stay away." Then the camera's light reflected off a pair of eyes staring back at me. They were a few feet off the ground, like whatever animal they belonged to was stalking me. My yelling hadn't scared whatever this was away. It just let them know exactly where I was. "I'm big," I yelled, trying to make myself sound so. "Stay away." The eyes suddenly raised another 3 feet off the ground. It was standing on its hind legs now. My mind flashed immediately to bear. It had to be a bear. I let out a deep scream to try to frighten the creature away. It worked. The bear let out a little growl, then turned and ran back into the woods. As I heard it crash through the underbrush, I let out a sigh of relief. "Holy fuck," I said, that was not cool." I started laughing, but it was more manic than anything. Goddamn Mother Nature. That night, when I was hunkering down for the evening, I decided to review the footage I shot. Sure enough, I managed to capture a pretty good shot of the bear. He was a mean-looking sucker, and those eyes shining back at me gave me chills. I was about to put the camera away when something else on the viewfinder caught my eye. After the bear ran off, the camera lingered in the same spot for a beat. While I yammered on about something stupid, I saw a second pair of eyes shimmer in the light. They didn't run away. That was when I understood what it felt like to be truly alone. Granted, I had survived now for a few weeks, and things had gotten hairy at times, but nothing made me feel fear like seeing that second set of eyes staring back at me. Those eyes belonged to something that wasn't afraid of a massive bear. Those eyes looked right past that alpha predator and into my soul. I didn't sleep that night. When the sun rose the following day, it did more than simply warm me up. It was also a harbinger of good news. Today was the day the medical team paid me a visit. They don't always show the medical checkups on the TV show, but by law, they are required to do so. I looked forward to the days when they'd arrive, if only because it broke up the monotony of bush living. I heard the boat before I saw it. I was waiting on the shore and saw the prow break through the fog. I waved my hands and watched as the boat cut through the glassy water, creating ripples throughout my little cove. They beached and walked over. I gave them all hugs. "You okay?" The medic asked, taking my blood pressure. Rough night, I said. Seems to be a trend today. Why is that? I shouldn't tell you, he said, finishing up the test. 110/70. Not too shabby. You gotta tell me, I pleaded. Joan got bit on the back of her leg by something. Nasty wound. She got helicoptered out last night. Jesus, I said. Lot of blood at her campsite. What bit her? The medic shrugged. No clue. She told us she heard screaming before she was attacked. Screaming or bellowing. Something like that. She was in shock, though, so who knows? Oh my God. Yeah, it's crazy. The teeth marks were unlike anything I've ever seen. Whatever got her did a number on her. She's so nice, I said. She'll be lucky if they can save the leg, the medic said. How you feeling, okay? Still have both my legs? For now, the medic said with a laugh. Be safe, huh? As always. They ran a few more tests and then slipped back into the fog and out of sight. After they left, I sat on the beach and thought about Joan. We had met at the pre-show boot camp, and we hit it off. Honestly, I was a little attracted to her. Intimidated, too. She was no joke. I remember thinking she has a legit shot at winning this whole thing. But now she might lose her leg to an animal bite. That didn't bother me too much. We're in nature, and that can happen. But the medic admitting they'd never seen a bite like that. I knew the woods well, and we got a crash course on the animals that lived in this area, and I was struggling to think of what it might have been. I stayed on the beach for a while. I knew I had things to do, but I couldn't will myself to get going. I kept going back to those second set of eyes. What were they? And what had disfigured Joan? I tried to imagine the pain, and I shuddered. After a half hour of idle time, I finally hauled myself up off the beach and turned to head back to my camp and get the day started. But as soon as I stood up, my eyes caught something unnatural on the shore. I saw a bunch of driftwood washed up on the beach, but that wasn't what was odd. What caught me off guard was that it looked like the driftwood spelled out the name Mimi. I walked over to the sticks to get a closer look when I suddenly heard a growl from the tree-line behind me. I stopped and turned my attention there and thought I might have to make a swim for it. While my attention was distracted, a wave came up and washed away the driftwood, so I never got a real good look at it. Hey, bear, I yelled. I heard rustling in the trees, and then something big ran away. I sighed and then started laughing. This place could work your last nerve like a boxer on a speed bag. I decided that to get my mind off all this nonsense, I needed to start my daily chores. Working the land helped keep my mind occupied. If I was busy thinking about gathering firewood or catching fish, I wouldn't think about some animal ripping Joan's tendon apart or some mysterious animal stalking me. Even though I stayed busy, my head was on a swivel. Deep in the back of my mind, those eyes were haunting me, watching and waiting for something. I'd feel a chill run down my spine and turn around to see if something was there. There never was. Right before sunset, I decided to gather some firewood. I grabbed my axe and went to an area I was slowly deforesting. I started hacking away at an old log when I heard something moving in the brush near me. I stopped chopping and eyed the greenery around me. I heard a branch snap to my left, and I spun to face whatever was over there. I couldn't see anything, but I knew something was there. Hey, I yelled, I know where you are. I heard a snort in response. At first, I thought that bear had made its way back, but then it started to yelp like a hurt dog. The screams were loud and stung my ears. There weren't supposed to be any wild dogs or coyotes near us, so whatever this was, it mimicked them. Hey, I yelled again, trying to get my voice as deep and berry white-like as possible. I know you ain't a coyote. The yelping instantly stopped. I clutched my axe handle so hard I was afraid I would snap it in two. That's when I heard laughing coming from the bushes. Human laughing. I was taken aback. That couldn't be true. There wasn't another person near me for miles. I swallowed hard. If you come near me, I swear to God I'll take your head clean off. The laughing got louder and louder. Then there was an ear-piercing scream. I dropped to the ground and slapped my hands over my ears. Whatever screamed took off running into the woods. After the ringing in my ears stopped, I scooped up my axe and hightailed it back to camp. I didn't get any extra firewood. I didn't go to church that night. I went back to my camp and debated tapping out. After an hour or so, I put the satellite phone back down and decided to try and stick it out. As the sun slipped behind the tree line and night came rushing in, I felt the hair on the back of my neck stand. I knew whatever was out there would be back. I knew I had to stay vigilant or something terrible would happen to me. I didn't know exactly what I was dealing with, but I knew I would go down swinging. Everything was fine for the first few hours. The only sound I heard was the crackling of my fire. It lulled me into complacency. I felt my eyelids start to get heavy. The day's work and stress were taking a toll on me. As I drifted into sleep, I heard the unmistakable sound of a woman screaming. In fear, right behind my tent, I snapped awake and grabbed my axe. I used the camera's light to light up the area in front of me. I walked through the brush, listening for the screaming again. As I got deeper into the bush, I heard another scream. It was definitely a woman, but that didn't make any sense. "Hello?" I yelled out. "Do you need help?" Another scream about 50 yards in front of me. I swallowed hard. A cool wind started to blow, but it wasn't shaking the trees. It was only blowing across the back of my neck. I dropped the camera and swung around with the axe, but there wasn't anyone behind me. The momentum of my swing sent me spinning onto the ground. While on the ground, I looked back where the breeze had come from and noticed depressions in the mud behind me. I grabbed the camera and shined the light on them to reveal cloven hoof prints. At first, I thought wild boar, but I hadn't seen any traces of wild boar near my campsite. "The fuck?" I said to myself. I pointed the camera at the hoof prints. They trailed off into the darkness. I stood back up and started following them. They went for about 10 feet before they stopped at the base of a pine tree. I looked to see if they went around the tree, but they didn't. They just stopped at the bottom of the tree. It didn't make any sense. Then I felt something drip onto my face. When I touched it, I instantly knew it wasn't water. It was too viscous. I pointed the camera at my fingers and saw they were black, just like the goo I had seen where the deer had been mutilated. I cursed to myself, aimed the camera light straight up the tree, and craned my neck to get a good look. At first, I didn't see anything, but then another drop of the black goo fell onto my face near my mouth. A bit hit my tongue, and I nearly retched on the spot. It tasted like spoiled meat. I spit it out and then heard laughing from above me. I looked back up and saw a pair of red, glowing eyes and a row of razor-sharp teeth smiling down at me like a demented Cheshire cat. It clicked instantly. I was face to face with a screaming Mimi. Before I could even comprehend what I was looking at, it screamed and then leapt from the tree into the darkness. I scrambled to my feet and swung the camera's light around. I was looking for where this little monster had gone to. My gut said they were between me and my camp, so rushing back right now wasn't an option. Even if I did, my tent was made of wood and tarp. Not exactly the most sturdy building material. If this thing chomped Jane's tendon from her bone, it would make short work of my camp. In the distance, I heard the fake coyote yelps again. They seemed to be coming from my left, but as soon as I started inching that way, the sound started coming from my right. It was like the Mimi could throw its voice. While I was trying to decide which way I should go, I heard a woman scream about 100 yards in front of me. "Help! Help!" I'm lost. There was no logical way another soul was near me. No one would be. I was in the middle of the woods, miles from civilization. I was with the medical team. We were out here to extract another person, but we were attacked by something. The voice yelled. I ran and got turned around. If anyone can hear me, please help. I've been cut, and I'm bleeding. I shut the light off. The woman's voice sounded sincere, and her story made sense. No one had ever been seriously injured by an animal in the show's history. If someone got bit by an unidentified creature, they might move in a team to pull everyone. Then I heard my name. The woman was yelling specifically for me. I think your camp is near here. It's Violet. We met at boot camp. I did your first medical exam. If you can hear me, please help. This cut is deep, and I need help. Everything they said was true. Now that I had a name to go with the voice, I could see Violet in my head. We did meet that first week. She did do my first medical checkup. I knew Mimi was out there and was capable of mimicry, but how did she know that information? About 10 feet above me, I heard the growl of a bear. I looked up to see a tree snapping back as something very large jumped onto another tree. The way this massive pine snapped back, I was afraid it would split in two and fall on me. I rolled out of the way, but tried to keep my eyes on the canopy. Oh my God, Violet yelled. I can see it. Please. If you can hear me, help. Help. For the love of God. Help. Then she screamed as the Mimi above me started laughing. No way this creature could do two different voices at the same time. Violet had to be there. She must be hurt. I turned the camera light back on. Violet, I'm over here. Can you see the light? Follow the sound of my voice. Oh my God. You're here. You're actually here. I moved away from the tree and near a clearing. I felt pine needles drop on me as the Mimi in the tree above me shuffled and split its attention between Violet and me. I still had my axe and wasn't above burying it into that monster's head if it came to it. I'll distract them. Come towards my voice. I grabbed my axe and swung it into the tree. I did it again and again, the wood splinters hitting me in the face as I chopped away at the base of the tree. I was going to take this bitch down. The Mimi looked down at me and snarled. In quick glances, I saw those red eyes and razor-sharp teeth. I couldn't make out any kind of shape outside of that. It looked feral. Whatever it was, I thought I also saw two pigtails swing in front of those eyes, but it could have been anything. My attention was on bringing this tree down. The Mimi jumped from the tree, and the force from the leap was enough to send the tree crashing towards the ground. I screamed out, "Violet, watch out!" The tree hit the ground with a loud thud, sending dirt flying into the air. I grabbed the camera light and tried to get a clear view of Violet or Mimi. I knew they were near each other out there in the cloud. "Violet, are you okay? Say something." As the dust started settling, I caught the shape of a figure standing on the other side of the clearing. It was Violet. She was okay. I broke into a fit of nervous laughter. "Jesus Christ," I yelled. "Are you okay? Is it near you?" Violet walked toward me, but I still couldn't see her features through a combination of the night and the settling dirt in the air. I took a few steps toward her, then stopped dead in my tracks. The form of the shady figure in front of me morphed from something Violet-sized to something a lot smaller, like a little girl with pigtails. Then they smiled, and I saw those razors grinning back at me. Their eyes turned red and narrowed on me. There never was a Violet out here. There was only a screaming Mimi. "Oh fuck," I said, swinging my axe up to my shoulders. Mimi reared its head back and let out a glass-shattering scream. I dropped to the ground and covered my ears, but it was too late. They were ringing, and the outside world sounded muffled. The only thing I could hear clearly was my rapidly beating heart. I was fucked and I knew it. I could turn and run, but this thing would catch me. It had been toying with me for a while now and wanted its reward. My only option was to stay and fight. I had an axe and the will to go down swinging. If nothing else, I had a puncher's chance. I clawed back to my feet and squared my stance. I gripped the axe hard. "If you're gonna do this, let's do this," I yelled, probably louder than I would have normally. My hearing was seriously fucked. My heart was racing, and I could feel each beat reverberate through my body. It felt like I was buzzing. I came into the wilderness to survive, and this was the ultimate test. Fuck making a fire. It was time to scalp a ghoul. The Mimi screamed again and rushed towards me. I waited, and my mind wondered what it would feel like if those teeth sank into my skin. I had leaned out already. They'd probably chomped down on my bones. Plus, this Mimi was pissed at me. There'd be revenge. I swallowed hard. My heart was beating so hard that I thought I might keel over before I even had a chance to fight back. I thought I felt it in my limbs, but then I realized I was feeling and hearing something else. A helicopter. Suddenly, over the tree lean, a spotlight shone in the clearing. The medical helicopter had returned. Mimi growled and screamed, but it was drowned out by the whirring blades above me. Someone from inside the helicopter tossed something out on the ground. It was a flashbang. The sudden burst of light nearly blinded me. I slammed my lids shut, but I could see white rings on the inside of my eyelids. I heard Mimi scream just over the din of the blades. I opened my eyes and let them adjust. They tried, but my vision was still fucked. I did see the Mimi turn and run into the darkness. "Head to the beach now," I heard over a loudspeaker. I didn't hesitate. I turned and ran as fast as my shoddy eyes and wobbly legs would take me. I heard the helicopter arc overhead and head for the beach. A few minutes later, I burst through the trees and was greeted by 6 heavily armed soldiers and the show's medical team. They waved me over, and we all scrambled onto the helicopter. A few seconds later, we were rising above the woods. "You okay?" the medic asked. "No," I said, "but I'll be fine." The medic laughed and patted me on the shoulder. I kept my eyes peeled to the woods below. I knew the screaming Mimi was looking up at me too. As we banked away, I swear I saw it walk onto the beach where the helicopter had landed. I saw those red eyes. When I returned to base camp, I discovered they had pulled everyone from the woods. Some people were banged up, but some were dealing with serious injuries. Later, they told us the screaming Mimi had come for all of us. When I asked what it was, they didn't answer. They just gave me an NDA to sign. In exchange, we all got paid. Handsomely. I'm telling you this now because fuck it. Even if they sue me and take everything, I'll just go live off the land. I've done it before, I can do it again. My guess is they won't do shit. Discovery in a lawsuit could be a surprise package that might just be a pipe bomb. Deny it, and it dies. I still don't have any clue what the hell a screaming Mimi is or what it wants or where it came from or anything. It's a mystery I do not want to explore. Eastern Europe is filled with ghosts already. I'm content to let them all fuck off together. I still camp off the grid. I need to. It's a feeling I get in my bones, the desire to reconnect with nature. These days, though, I bring a pretty wild collection of weapons with me. If the axe and knife can't stop something, maybe the holy water will. Haven't had to use it yet, but I'm ready. I'm always ready. 4th story. Wendigo encounter. After hearing stories and looking stuff up online, I'm fairly sure it was a Wendigo. Me, my son, and girlfriend were attacked by something. We were camping up in the northernmost area of Washington. My girlfriend is incredibly superstitious, so she insisted we brought weapons. So I had my combat knife and a 12-gauge shotgun, and she brought a .22 rifle alongside a newly sharpened machete. Our son was just 3 years old at the time. She and I were set on edge from a park ranger, who seemed very tense and uneasy, who stopped us and instead of confiscating our weapons told us to be careful and stay safe, then sent us along our way to the camp. When we got there, we were informed that several visitors had spoken about some unnatural noises and a pale creature that would mimic voices and sounds of people who weren't talking or seeming to be distracted. I laughed and put the idea out of my mind, thinking to myself, there's no way. They're messing with us. But I knew better. So we then reached the area we were going to set up camp. We immediately got a fire ready to light and set up our tent and bags. I fed my son as my girlfriend ate a snack. We decided to get a lay of the area, so me and my girlfriend hiked around for about an hour or so. I had one of those baby-carrying backpacks, and my son started to get real heavy. Everything seemed normal until I saw something down the almost path we were on. We walked closer to investigate and saw drag marks. It looked as if someone had killed a buck. There was a whole outline in the dirt with a small dried pool of blood, as if someone grabbed it from the antlers and pulled. That wouldn't be possible for any man to do. The buck, or whatever it was, would have been way too big for that. Shaken, we rushed back to base camp and restarted the fire and hurried back into our tent. Too afraid to leave since it was dusk by now, we stayed inside the tent and my girlfriend put our son to bed. Eventually, probably from the exhaustion of fright, we fell asleep. What must have been hours later, I awoke to a faint rasping sound that sounded like a child crying. I gazed outside in confusion and saw the outline of a creature that seemed to be a buck, standing over something. It seemed to be about 20 feet away, but at a closer glance had unnaturally long limbs for a buck and was eerily tall. In sudden fear, I unloaded 2 shots into the creature and heard a loud, blood-curdling sea. Our Y girlfriend awoke screaming to the shots I had fired as I tried to explain what I had heard. To my surprise, the animal hadn't moved an inch. Then I noticed the stains on the side of the animal. It looked like blood was running down the edge, and lots of it. It stared at me deep into my eyes as I became petrified with fear. A sinister feeling of dread fell over me, as if it knew I couldn't move. I thought to myself, what if it starts to bolt towards us? Just then, this tall, decrepit, demonic thing seemed to whisper something. I couldn't exactly tell what it was saying, but it seemed to have said, "I need more children." My girlfriend screamed, asking where our son was. We blacked out. In the morning, we awoke to park rangers at our campsite. We didn't see our son anywhere. We told the rangers that he was missing, and they started a search party. I explained what had happened, and strangely, they seemed to believe it. The one who seemed to be older by at least a decade pulled along the one we met earlier and whispered in his ear. I only heard a single line, and I'm not even sure if what I heard was correct. It sounded like he said, "It's getting bolder." They didn't seem to want us by ourselves, so they waited with us while they continued the search. We stayed in a log cabin for 3 days with a forest ranger, when suddenly some rangers came into the cabin, saying they couldn't find our son. My girlfriend starts to sob. I start to hate myself thinking that I could have done something if I wasn't frozen in fear. We rushed outside only to find some injured and frightened police officials. The rangers wouldn't tell us anything of what happened or what they saw, or why the cops were scared shitless. All we know is that we don't have a son anymore. God help whoever goes into that forest next. And please, please don't bring your kids with you. 5th story. Something is hunting me. I am currently holed up in my closet hiding from something. I don't know if I can get this out before my phone dies, because I haven't had power since yesterday. I'll try to quickly explain why. 10 years ago, my grandpa lived here. Since I was his only relative, I was the sole inheritor. It's a small farm in rural Wisconsin. The closest person was down the road about a mile. My grandpa was friends with him. I forgot his name, but I do remember that it was something like John or Justin or something like that. Well, anyways, he seemed nice enough, very honest. So it was a surprise when he turned up dead, torn into pieces. Nothing was stolen, nothing was broken, he was just dead. Well, that happened about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And since then, weird stuff has been happening to me. It started simple enough with the odd feeling of being watched. then movement in a small patch of trees in the distance across the road. But during this last week is when I knew something was trying to kill me. Monday. Monday was normal. I'd gotten used to the feeling of being watched by now, so it was a normal day. Until right before bed. Now I'm a night owl, so I usually stay up late. Tonight, though, I took Chewy, my big-ass German Shepherd, out to use the bathroom. He just started barking at the trees across the street. Now these were at least 100 feet into the field and almost impossible for someone to see anything, so I guess he smelled something. After about a minute of barking, he stopped and ran to the door, refusing to move. Now kind of freaked out, I let him in. This was odd because he's never done this before, and he's 5. He made a beeline for his kennel, which he only does during the 4th of July or thunderstorms. So something had to be off. I made sure every door was locked before heading to bed. Tuesday was horrible. My door was cracked open, and what I found on the porch scarred me. Chewy was ripped to shreds. Every limb was meticulously placed below his body. Chewy's head was placed a few inches from his neck. There was a trail of blood leading across the streets, aiming right at the trees. Whatever killed him was too smart to be a bear or other wild animal, so I grabbed my 12-gauge and a flashlight and headed into the trees. It felt much larger inside the woods than outside. I knew I made a bad choice when I found Chewy's tail on the ground. I don't even know how I missed that. I turned around and ran. Honestly, I'm surprised that I made it home in one piece. But I never felt safe since, knowing that it somehow opened the door. The rest of the day was spent being paranoid. Wednesday, I decided that what happened the past few days was just a number of freak accidents, and I was going insane from spending so much time alone. So I decided to call some friends to my house, but they never made it. They said it was because they had a flat tire and only a few miles from my excluded house. They were attacked by it, I just know. The rest of the day, I had a somehow heightened sense of being watched, but only when I passed by windows, which all had blinds. So I obviously closed them. Thursday, it ripped my blinds down while I was sleeping, so now I don't feel safe anywhere in my house, except in rooms without any windows, so my closet. I decided that enough was enough and grabbed a lighter and a bottle of beer. I made my way to the forest and set it ablaze before throwing the beer on it, making the fire explode. I waited for the entire forest to be on fire before calling the fire department. That night was one of the scariest in my life. It started at around 9:30 with screaming, almost human-like, but not quite. Louder than anything I've ever heard. So loud it sounded like it was right in front of me, even though I knew it was across the street. After about half an hour of nothing happening, I decided to head to bed. I was woken who knows how long after by banging downstairs. I grabbed my shotgun and aimed my flashlight at the door. I knelt behind my bed as the ruckus downstairs never stopped, and neither did my tightening grip. I was too scared to even sweat. I don't know how long I waited before falling asleep in that position. Friday. Today is when shit hit the fan. When I woke up, my flashlight was burned out, and my phone was at some 70%. Reception was just gone, and I was sore and tired. But I quickly woke up when I saw the state my house was in. Windows were smashed, and cabinet doors were barely hanging on. Food was scattered across the floor, and the faucet on my sink was ripped off. The front door was broken in half outside and half inside on the ground. My lights were also smashed out. My couch was ripped to shreds as if a bear had gotten to it. I knew I couldn't stay there, so I grabbed my car keys and wallet and headed to my car, but the tires were slashed. I don't know when this happened. It could have been Monday for all I knew. I just had a horrible feeling in the pit of my stomach the entire day, like it was inside with me. But I did once catch a glimpse of something outside my house, but just in my peripheral vision, so this might not be too accurate. It looked tall and skinny. I think it had gray skin. But don't quote me. When I looked back, it was gone. I didn't dare try to run to town because that thing would easily get me. I tried to live normally and ignore that horrible feeling, but it just got to me. At around 1 p.m., it got so bad that I knew it was inside the house with me. So I casually grabbed enough supplies to last me the night and barricaded myself inside my closet. Where I currently am, it's around 10 p.m. now, and I'm thinking about making a break for the town, or else I'll die like my neighbor. I'll post an update if I make it out alive. Thanks a lot for watching the video till the end. Subscribe to our channel Horror in Detail. Drop your opinions/suggestions in the comment section, and like the video as it helps with the YouTube algorithm.